Hello, let's talk about chapter 4 through 6 of The Watchmen. So, during chapter 4, it's honestly like really confusing at first because it's like jumping back and forth between time, and I'm like, what is going on? But it's showing how John can see basically like all time happening all at once, and that's how he sees it. It's not like linear, he just sees it as like one thing. And so I think, back to the question, what does his clock represent? I think it's a product of his imagination, and since he's going back and forth through time and his memories, his brain just kind of like put that out there. But I also think it's posing and possibly answering the question of, is there a God? And since God is kind of credited for time in the universe or on Earth, then John's over here creating like essentially the symbol of time, which is this clock palace thing. So it's kind of putting him up against God and asking, if John created this symbol of time, is there a God that created the universal time? It's really confusing. But John decides that both his clockwork palace and time, the order that is time, he thinks that it's created by chance, that there is no God, creator of all. He just thinks it's by chance, and we can see that when he says, perhaps the world is not made, perhaps nothing is made, perhaps it simply is, has been, will always be there, a clock without a craftsman. And I think that's him saying that I didn't create this clockwork palace, and nor did God create time. It's just happened. Okay. Question 2. What's the significance and development of Rorschach's character, the Jen and Kitty today? So the significance of developing Rorschach's character is that, one, obviously, we started the graphic novel with him going around trying to find out who killed the comedian. And it's also kind of like giving him a backstory and some more depth for the audience, us. Kitty Genevieve's story, I don't know how to say her name. Her story is kind of his like awakening moment into his character, and since she was raped and killed and where 40 people could hear her happening and no one stopped it, he kind of like lost hope in humanity at that moment, and decided, and it kind of like triggered his depressing view of society, and he then like created that mask to kind of, one, he's trying to like disassociate from himself, since he kind of he's human and he lost hope in humanity, so therefore he kind of like lost hope in himself as well. Okay, ran out of storage. He's trying to disassociate by putting the mask on, trying to disassociate from himself, because he even says in the book, he's like, the mask is a face that I can look at. So okay, question 3. The story within the story. So I think that's talking about the pirate comic that someone's reading. And it's one, that story, the pirate story, reminds me of the story of Louis Zamperini, if you know who that is. The person in the movie Unbroken, who was in World War II and survived a plane crash and all of this stuff. Anyways, it's incorporated in the story because it shows how even people with like the right intentions on the way, having a good goal on the way there, they can kind of like lose their minds and like do everything in their power to accomplish this good goal. And with the pirate, he's floating on a corpse float and eating raw bird and raw shark like a savage, and which perfectly okay, trying to survive. But then it's kind of like, when you put it back against Rorschach's story, he's like putting people in the hospital trying to find the culprits of these crimes. And I think like even with this goal, perfectly fine moral goal, on the way there he's hurting people. And yeah, so I think it's just like trying to show that it's just natural human path that happens when people have a good goal and then they just kind of go crazy trying to accomplish it. So that's all I have. Thanks.